through some really tough times not that long ago. And so, not only did it affect the church, but it also affected me. Emma, my youth pastor, she was engaged to be married with another woman, and people had a pretty big problem with it and expressed it very openly and publicly. And people tried to use the excuse that it was like protecting the youth to make her leave, and overall, in the end, it just ended up hurting them. Once she left, I had nowhere to go and no one to go to. I came to the realization that my role model, spiritual leader, my friend, and someone that I considered my family, that was just outcasted from the church. I lost my church family, my second home, and the place where I spent most of my childhood. I was angry, upset, confused, because the person that I looked up to so much was just shunned out of my own church. I can't put into words the amount of hurt I felt watching the place I grew up being torn down piece by piece. And still to this day, it's hard to be in my church knowing the hate that happened there. I'm still having a hard time not having that support system and that most siblings had when they were my age. It was my turn to be part of the youth ministry. I could finally be a part of it instead of watching it. But because of lack of respect, love, and treating someone less than a human being, that experience was taken away from me. This experience took me off my path and my spiritual journey. I had no one to ask questions to or to guide me, so I shut myself off from my faith. I didn't know what I believed in or if there was even something to believe in. I had no sense of security, no place to belong, and I dug myself into a hole. This week at Open Table has let me climb out of that hole. I honestly didn't think that I was going to ever come out of it, and I'm very proud to say that I believe in God and I believe in Jesus Christ, God's only Son. But the God that I believe in is loving and accepting of everyone. I don't know what I want to do with my call, but I know that God is calling me to work with people because everyone deserves to be treated like a human being, and everyone should be able to share their stories. I want to learn the stories people have to share and show compassion. And as one of my favorite songs says, God makes beautiful things out of the dust, and that is what my mission is.
Let me just say, even though this is the third year,
doing this never gets any easier.
And another thing I will say is, I know some of you feel the same way. God, this year went really fast. Like, I gotta say, this is like the fastest year ever. Like, I feel like we skipped a day or two. Maybe one of you threw me in the cryo freezing chamber. You know, if you want to fess up, it's cool. We're in church. But when I was invited to come to Open Table for the third year, I was pretty overjoyed. Thanks, Tammy. I didn't think we would be able to come back next year because I'd be a senior pretty soon. And when I accepted, one of the things that was kind of poking into my mind was, oh God, not another Credo. And the little devil on my shoulder is just like, don't worry, we can take the one from the first year and merge it together in an unholy abomination. But then I said, no, Reginald, it's church camp and we have to play fair. So here we are, and the questions of the week are staring me down, staring all of us down. I suppose the big ones, anyway, are, what do you think God is like? And what do you think He calls people to do? What does He call you to do? I'd like to say first that I don't really care. I'm sure most of you probably feel the same way, that I don't really care what God looks like or how you should, or what pronouns you should use when God is spoken of. I mean, in the end, I'm sure you can most of you agree that the message doesn't change depending on what he looks like, and it just seems like it just causes unnecessary conflict. And the second thing is, how do I think God judges people? Well, I mean, none of us can say for certain, but I certainly hope with all my heart that He is merciful and accepting to not only us, but those outside of our own faith circles. And what does God call me to do? Well, I couldn't tell you. As some of you know, I said I enlisted in the Army as a combat medical specialist, and I'm excited, and I would say that at least I would think that God would call us to do something that not only makes us happy, but in some way helps our fellow man. And doing some research into what my MOS does, what my job does, will do is, as a medic, you're not only you're more than just the guy who patches up your battle buddies, but also you're obligated to be moral support for them. It could be something as simple as helping one of your guys transport some artillery shells from one place to another, or helping out the guy who's going through a bad divorce, or counseling someone who lost someone dear to them, whether on the battlefield or at home. And if He calls me to do that, then I think I can be all right with that.
I promise it won't take me about 10 minutes to get my speech done, like you did in the Bible. Well, whenever we were eating at the banquet today, the weirdest thing happened. I opened up my cookie and it said, "Faith is private, but never personal." And I was like, well, here we go. Yeah, it's the opposite. I was trying to memorize it. I don't think it could be wrong. Okay. Well, good evening. Is everyone good up there? So, I want you to raise your hand if you in the room is faith have been tested. Raise your hand. Okay.
That's everyone.
I want you to raise your hand if you denied or hated God. And then I want you to raise your hand if you were bold. Now look around the room. You're not alone. When I was a little girl, I did the average thing. I'd go to church. Now, I didn't really know the concepts. And I had to be honest, nor did I care. During church, I used to play on my devices because I was just so bored. But then whenever it finally hit me, it was whenever I went to a Christian concert. Now, I never had heard a Christian song in my life at that point. And I was like, maybe 15, 14. I know it's sad. But it was like a combination of artists, and I heard Plum. Anybody heard her? And at the moment I was going through situations. And I heard her sing the song, "I Need You Now." It says, "How many times have you heard me cry out, 'God, please take this'? How many times have you given me strength to just keep breathing? Oh, I need you. God, I need you." I immediately just started crying because it felt like my life, if that makes any sense. So I explained. fully question, yes, I have been bullied. It was started in 5th grade, and then ended in 8th when we were finally stood up, and it sometimes still continues. Examples would include a time when I found a sticky note with myself on it, and I was dead. Another time would be the countless amounts of glares that I've had in the hallway, where I felt so unsafe, or the amounts of threats that I've gotten on social media. Or the moment where I practically begged my mom, to not be consumed. And that's not even the beginning. So now, I can figure out how you would think that those lyrics will start to make sense. Yeah, yes, I prayed, and I called, and I cried to God over and over again. Because how many times does it take? How many times? Yes, I believe in God. I also believe that every one of you in this room are broken in a way, shape, or form. Take a rose, for example. Is it beautiful? Yes. But if you take away all the thorns, the petals, what you have left are just thorns. Every one of you has sinned. No matter how much you know, you have sinned. None of you are perfect. It's just how life is. And yes, this metaphor can be millions. Every rose has its thorns. But it still means that we're broken. Anyway. The Bible says that God loves us. Romans 5:8. But God shows his love for us, and that while we are all sinners, Christ died for us. John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life. Proverbs 8:17. I love those who love me, and those who seek me diligently find me. And the list continues. No matter if you're black, racist, a sinner, and a member of the LGBTQ+ family, he loves you with all his heart. Did anybody notice the bell that I originally? Did you see it? On that bell, it says internal faith. And it says, work for peace and yearn for peace. I once mentioned to my vocational members of the small groups that I wanted to be a nurse. Because God loves everyone. And he cares for everyone. And that's what I want to do. And knowing that I can care for people too, bring me closer to the role that Jesus played, not the sacrificial way, but the healing. So yes, we have our thorns, and we have all cried out multiple times. But in the end, there's always someone who loves. And this is the Father, Almighty God.
It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, and I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Okay, so the reason I wrote that song, the reason I sung that song is because, well, I'm scared. Because although I know that I've always thought that I knew what my calling was, since I've come here, my eyes have been opened to see that God is not finished with me yet. I've learned that no matter how hard I try to deny it, I'm here to heal and help people, even though I am broken. During this week, I've gotten to hear the stories of 3 fellow open table members who have all came out as either pansexual or bisexual. And what scared me was not because they told me, but what scared me was because I knew what to say. And so last night I was talking to my pastor, and he kept on pushing me because I was trying to write a poem and everything, and he told me that I was worried about why. He asked me why I was worried about why the way it sounded, if it rhymed or not. He told me all that didn't matter. So, and we pretty much went back and forth on like I don't know like how I should say it, and he told me to just be real. And I was crying, and I told him that, I realized that this is my gift, and I don't want it, because I don't know what to do with it. And he told me to bring it to God, and I did. So this is what came to me, I guess, so this is my official prayer. God comes in all places, especially the oppressed. Somebody is always praying for me. God is accepting. You can still be normal and be a Christian. Finally, I'm not confined to my way of hiding color.
Mine's not that long, but I believe God has many forms, and one of the forms He's taken in my life was, well, my mom, and I have a single mom, and obviously I have a brother who is with me right now, and well, he was really helpful in that growing up, because my mom, back when we were younger, we couldn't go to daycare because it was too expensive. So my mom had to take a break from her job so that she could stay home with us because we were too young to stay home by ourselves. So she wasn't making a lot of money at the time because she couldn't work. So God has been really helpful through that because we never had to take out a loan from the bank or sell our house or anything. So God really helped her, and through that time it helped us as kids to have a mom there with us that can help us grow and develop. eventually she started working as a teacher, and I didn't really approve, mostly because she thought she was a lot smarter than us. She thought she knew everything about school, so every time we would, sometimes she would ask if I had homework, and I would say no, even though I did have homework. And she knew I had homework just because she's a teacher. She can see through that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it helped in the long run. I wasn't very happy with it at the time, but I don't think I would be able to do what I can now if it wasn't for God, because times when I don't want to say hard, but my mom not working and stuff was kind of hard because we were, I mean, we didn't have to take out a loan, which was great, but God really helped me do that. And obviously, I don't have a dad, and so because they divorced when I was about 4 years old. So I think God really blessed me with the ability to do the things for myself that a dad would usually do for me, like teaching myself how to play sports and play music and things like that that dad usually help you with. So that was very helpful to have those gifts that help me with my talents. I don't really know my call yet, but I do enjoy playing music. I play the piano, and I think I want to do something with that whenever I grow up. So, yeah, that's my dream.
So, most of you have heard about my story this week. I don't like talking about it very much, even though it might seem the opposite. A lot of times, when I do burst out with parts of me, it's because I just feel that there's someone who needs to hear it. And every time I even write, people always come out to me afterward and told me that really helped them. So I wrote a poem that I hated. I didn't have very long to do that. The painting correlates with the poem that I wrote, and one of the things that I struggle with is PTSD, because when I was younger, I was sexually abused, and other trauma from growing up poor and things like that. So when I have my episodes with PTSD, it's always here, when it gets really bad. That's kind of how I feel. I'm just kind of lost in space, and I don't feel connected to anything or anyone around me, and it's terrifying. But this week has helped me come to terms with a lot of things. Two of those things being how I identify, and knowing that I'm loved. So here's my thought. What is God? I'm afraid to learn. A concept so odd, yet I seem to yearn for its tender love. Unconditional love, connection to the earth and heaven up above, to diminish my fear. Love without hesitation. I'm unsure they'll hear my cries of frustration, but I yearn for a place where I am invited to be me in its space, with my heart ignited to my mother dearest, who refuses to listen, denies my queerness, says it's a decision. But if that is right, that I choose to be gay, every time that I fight, why won't it go away? I believe in love, that we're born to feel, look to the stars above, to decide what's real. What is my call? I don't have a name, but I want to help all the people put to shame, to the young child still in my brain, to a life so wild and full of pain. You are me, and I am you, in harmony, no longer two. Openly proud and unafraid, the time is now, and I refuse to walk away.
But I believe in us all being safe individually. God, and I was called to us from I'm about to sing a song about how I believe that we're going to be saved by God and how it's called to be God's presence to do.
So, what I did is I kind of like wrote a speech, so, but it's not that very long, so I won't use any speeches. Okay. I went into this week terrified because I didn't really know if I kind of like heard God's voice. And yeah, like I went to church every Sunday. But I didn't really listen to every sermon. But like, when I thought of God, I thought God always showed you what He wanted you to do, big things, such as like for Moses, the burning bush. But I never really realized that most of the time He came in small things, like waking up in the morning, sharing with little talents I have. 1 second, technical difficulties, but okay. Okay, I lost my part. Wait, okay. My little talent like dancing or acting, or and I feel like my calling is to help those young artists that don't, so they don't go through the same struggles that I do. Like how I was not able to express myself. And that is my
I don't know about anyone else here had record Credo, but I was flipping out. I suffered from really bad depression and anxiety and PTSD. I didn't have, what am I saying? I had an amazing childhood up until the point that I was 8. And at that point, our world came crashing down. At that point, my grandpa passed away. I forbid that anyone ever called me any again. I was bullied, I moved here, and I just felt like I didn't matter. And it just got worse from there. I told a few people here of my story, and it wasn't a very good one. There's things I don't remember from my past, things that happened that I wish I could. But through it, God has given me a way to get rid of the feelings that I have where I do feel the way I do, and that's poetry. So the first poem I'm going to read you is one I wrote for Leslie, and I actually read it to him before he left. It's titled The Owl. The owl is great. From the stories he tells to the compassion that he shows, he is no longer trapped in the cage of the past, but he is free for the enlightenment of the present. Spreading his wings, you see the hardships of the past, but when he flies, you see the beauty of God's hands in his life. For he has been let out of the cage to tell the truths we have not seen, to bring the stars to light, and to pull us from the darkness. He leaves us with a flap of his wings, and we thirst for more of his knowledge. That poem was the first poem I had written that wasn't sad and dark and depressing in months. And when I was still at Credos, I thought, well, I could be the person that goes and writes a paragraph or a page and reads it about my life, or I could show what I do, and that's poetry. So my credo is a poem, and I want you guys to try and envision what is happening in this poem. The dark valleys and endless tears arises a dove, pure white and glorious. He rose to save, but no one wants to help. Everyone persecuted him, they hated, they yelled blasphemy, until the broken, beaten child brought her empty plate. She bowed before him to seek a way to help, not for her own sake, but for this man who whom she did not know. But her family split upon this choice, and she could never change. She would never regret that, for this man could do more good in her life than anyone could have imagined. The struggles continued, but she had his healing and power, never alone and always loved. She now had a father, a savior, and a protector, just for the courage to say yes to a stranger.
Better. First of all, I'd like to say that I've been blessed with the opportunity to be here for the second time. I believe it's a slightly different pulpit. I can call it a pulpit, right? Sure. Slightly different pulpit from last year, but still blessed with the opportunity to give myself and present myself in front of people. I find this experience very empowering and very uplifting. So I should probably start. I'm under the belief that God is there in the beginning, and exit life with God, and that He surrounds you during life. In the beginning, He breathes your life into the womb, and you were presented gifts at that point. Those gifts, as you were taught in Sunday school, is your little light, and you might have had that little light or candle that you walked around with, and you sang, "This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine." And that little light, you were told to grow, and that becomes your gifts that will eventually lead into your vocation. As we have learned from many people here today, throughout the week, they have presented their vocation through their gifts and have found that vocation, that call. We've seen it in every single one of our vocational mentors, and even if you don't know it, you can start seeing it in people around you. Those are your gifts. That is the start of your journey. That is this journey through faith and through life that you go through. And there are ups and there are downs. The highs are great and glorious. You feel extremely close to God. These weeks that I've been here, I feel as though this is a very thin moment. That I can almost reach up and touch God or herself. Sorry. But there are also been low points. Last year, I was here, and I received a terrible phone call. I lost a dear friend to me, and I can say that was the one night that I ever questioned God, and that I was ever upset with Him. I have seen the side of the casket too many times in my short life, and hearing about that I was going to see another was too much. I will say that I was physically and emotionally upset, but in those darkest moments, I feel as though God presents us the tools to rise out of it. And for me, that was Lance. He took me aside and took me on a walk and just talked and showed me God's love. And the rest of that week, I felt the presence of God's love through all our vocational mentors, and it was uplifting. And I was allowed to go back home and spread that love to all my friends who were grieving and in need of help. So, I don't know what my future brings, but I know I have been called to spread God's love and continue spreading the love that I've been given. And in the end, I will be with God and with my friends. Thank you.
I'm going to say a part of a song that's called Take your time.
Alright.
I just have to read this.
You're all right.
I was told God loved me from a very young age, and I should love everyone as God loved me. As I've been growing up in a world with so many issues, I believe everyone is equal no matter race, sexual identity, size, shape, because God created us all the same. Today's world is not the one I always had imagined it to be. But, so I believe God is calling me to influence, to declare peace upon all people, to love everyone as He loves me, to help others who need help. God has called me to be a helping hand to others who don't have anyone there for them, an advocate to stop climate change. And all I feel God's calling me is to do something tremendous for the world. Although I believe God has more planned for me, God has given me many great journeys, and Open Table is one that has given me the love I was missing, and they brighten my thoughts for a better tomorrow. Open Table, within just a week, has enlightened me and educated me widely on some things I did not know before. And this helped me also better understand my call, and I'm happy to say this before everybody. I'm saying a thank you to you guys. Thank you for helping me better realize that what God is calling me for. Helping me understand that I am loved regardless of who I identify as. Thank you for being a huge fan this past week. Thank you for allowing me to express myself and be who I am. I wish I could stay forever, but unfortunately, that's impossible. I want to say I've grown so much this week, and you all have occupied a special amount of love in my heart. Again, thank you, and I hope we shall all cross paths again. Okay. Hi. So, when I first came to this camp, I didn't know what to expect. But now I've been here, it was like a really good experience for me. Like, to learn about different religions and everything. But, like, growing up with a single parent, raising 2 kids, was like really hard. And God has like really allowed me to get through hard times. Like, there was a time when, like, I was driving down the street and it was me, my mom, and my sister, and like this lady walked up to the car and she like just hopped in the car and asked my mom for money and stuff and told us to drop her off. So my mom didn't give her, like, my mom gave her like all the money she had in the car at that time, and when we dropped her off, like, she went to a house but we didn't see her go in. And then when we drove off and got home, like 2 weeks later on the news, it said that that same lady was a criminal. And I just thank God that when she got in the car, like nothing bad happened to us. And I believe that God loves everyone, no matter what. I believe that there is only one God. And I really don't know what my call is, but I still hope to find out so that I can act in it.
connected by our joy and our longing, and our laughter and our grief and our hearts and our pain. Us, together. I believe in the potential of every person. I admire our unabashed happiness and our need to understand, our care and our desire to serve. I fall in love every day with the ways we show our humanity through art and song and creation. We are careless and messy, but we are good. In every place we've been this week, we've seen hospitality, we've witnessed resilience, but most of all, we've been shown goodness. People, each endlessly complex, coming together under one sky to share in one human story. It is this openness that inspires me. In the spirit of human creation and in honor of our guests this week, I'm going to share a poem that resonates with me. I'd like to honor all of their individuality, so take from this what you will. This poem is called Culture in the Universe by Simon J. Ortiz. 2 nights ago, in the canyon darkness, only the half-moon and stars, only mere men. Prayer, faith, love, existence. We are measured by vastness beyond ourselves. Dark is light, stone is rising. I don't know if humankind understands culture. The act of being human is not easy knowledge. With painted wooden sticks and feathers, we journey into the canyon towards stone, a massive presence in midwinter. We stop, lean into me. The universe sings in quiet meditation. We are wordless. I am in you. Without knowing why culture needs our knowledge, we are oneself in that canyon. And the stone wall I lean up on spins me wordless and silent to the reach of stars and to the heavens within. It's not humankind after all, nor is it culture that leads us. It is the vastness we do not enter. It is the stars we do not let own us. Being human is deeply challenging, but it is also wonderful and joyous and majestic if we only let ourselves be reminded.
So, this is my second year attending Open Table. And over the course of this last year from the previous time, I feel like I have become more mature in my understanding of my own personal faith. And I feel God calls us to love others, no matter their gender, their race, or their sexual orientation. I believe that the root problem in today's society is that we don't love and accept others. We just judge them. I'm not saying we're obligated to agree with everyone, but we are supposed to respect other people's opinions. Jesus didn't just die for you or me. He died for everyone. As for my calling, I'm still not really sure, but I feel that I was definitely called to join the military, but that's just part-time. And I guess I just felt like I wanted to join for a while, but I was really praying and wondering, looking for a sign to do that. And I was just scrolling through my phone one day, looking on Instagram like every teenager, and I came across something. It was a Bible verse somebody had posted. And I don't remember it because it was pretty long, but basically the gist of it was, you need to do this. So I ended up enlisting, and as for my main purpose in life, I'm not really sure yet. And words. Well, basically, the first step I feel I need to take is, I guess part of my calling is to raise awareness for mental health. Because that's something I personally struggle with. for a while, up until recently, and also it runs in my family too. My father's bipolar, my parents are divorced, and I have a single mother as well. And just watching her struggle every day, and watching my dad struggle every day with his mental illness and his drug addiction and his alcoholism, really made me question who God was or is. And coming here these last 2 years has really made me realize that I can only control myself and what I do and how I help others. So, I guess basically what I'm trying to say is the best thing I can do is trust in God to guide me through the path of my life.
Okay, so this week has really been an eye-opening experience for me. It's shown me many different perspectives, and it turned out to be way better than I thought it would be. So my call, as of now, I have not yet discovered my call from God. I'll continue to pray and listen, and I know that God has a good plan for me. And I believe in treating people equally, even if they're different. To me, it doesn't matter what religion or denomination it is. The only thing that matters is if their group is accepting of others and plays a part in making the world a better place. It doesn't matter what others believe, it matters how they act and whether or not they spread love or hate. I believe that every group should be accepting. Doesn't matter if you're black, white, straight, gay, male, female. Everyone is a person that deserves to be welcomed and treated with respect. Everyone has a right to learn about God. People should start caring less about what others believe, more about what they do. If everyone would realize this, life on earth would be a much better place.
God is the creator and created all of us as equals. God also loves and accepts all of us, no matter what. And as people, we are called to do the same. We are also called to help better the world we have been given. And God gives us different gifts to answer these calls. We also live in a world of in-betweens. This means that we live in a world that isn't black or white. Due to this, I believe there isn't just one true religion, but that there are many religions that can be right as well. This also means that people can worship however they choose to. Finally, all of us are called to certain vocations to achieve our other calls. While I do not know exactly what my call is, I know that I will follow what God calls us to do wherever I go.
merciful, gracious, and loving. The God I believe in calls each and every one of us in constant service to others. Despite Wesleyan ideals in which I believe to subscribe to, I believe the Bible should be used solely for guidance, pertaining to the statement of the Bible is the Word. I disagree with the literal interpretation of the Bible. The Bible is essentially God's ideals expressed through stories, songs, and lessons. These, in my opinion, are meant to be read figuratively and through metaphors we see in our life on earth today. Pertaining to the idea of servant leadership of Wesleyan ideals, I believe it's important to serve and lead in service. However, I believe in the power of service that is common among people, and to make service a constant effort among everyone, not always requiring leadership. Service should not be given within a person's comfort zone. It is crucial to extend oneself and practice self-sacrifice when serving. This includes prioritizing other people's wants and needs above your own, and to practice that often. This self-sacrifice also includes pushing yourself, working another hour, waiting to another kid. When a person pushes themselves and practices self-sacrifice, it shows their commitment to God's word and their call. My call is to work with kids. I have considered jobs like pediatric nursing, teaching, social work, childcare work, and more. No matter which vocation my mind wanders to, it always settles on the plan of working with kids. My church makes kids a priority. It offers VBS, mission camp, youth group, and youth opportunities. But despite my church's prioritization, I still felt excluded. I joined Calvary United Methodist Church in 3rd grade. This meaning I didn't get to experience my young years or grow up with the kids in my grade. I didn't know where the Sunday school rooms were, the songs, the Bible stories, or even the names of the kids in my grade. I felt excluded. It's my call to work with kids because I want kids to have a unique childhood where they can feel acceptance, where they can be themselves and never feel excluded like I do. I want to encourage the natures of our children and be mindful of our nurtures. Prioritizing children allows them to grow and affects that growth positively. Kids are the future in the same sense that we are. They can be easily molded just as clay. In turn, it is my call to be the sculptor of them. The best way I can describe my call is the verse from Luke 3:11. If you have two coats, give one away. I want to give all I can to kids. I want to give my second coat to them. This summer, I participated in Project Transformation, which is an organization that helps kids maintain their reading skills during the summer by reading with volunteers. The first girl I read with, I will always remember. I remember her face brighten when she saw that she got to read with me, her excitement to read, and the depth of conversations she could hold. It was cold in the sanctuary that morning, and I was wearing my rain jacket. The girl I was reading with was not wearing a jacket, so she asked for mine, and I gave it to her. The act of physically and literally giving my coat to a child who needed it reminded me of the figurative coat I was given. I plan on continuing to work with Project Transformation, connecting with kids on ASP, volunteer with children in mission camp, and prioritize the kids I care for. The way I can extend beyond myself is to give extra attention to the kids who need it. I will participate in events to help kids in my community, despite my busy schedule or other supposed priorities. I strive to do this myself because others do not prioritize children the way that is necessary for their positive development. My call is to give my second coat to kids, and to give it often. In doing so, I will maintain the relationships with them to help them flourish and to not feel the exclusion I felt when I was young. I do this to show that every child is welcome at God's table.
I I'm an introvert. And if you don't know what that is, it's a person who is afraid to open up with other people to the point where they don't talk at all. Sorry. My introversy is awful in ways where it makes it difficult for me to speak because it will send me into a spiral of overthinking and stress. It's gotten so bad until the point where I started to lose my faith in God. And I even started bashing God for his actions in the Bible. I was pretty lost. But then I came here. It happened at small groups where I finally opened up about myself and my quietness. And then it happened. Someone in my group said, "Hey God, you're not alone. I'm just like you. I'm an introvert." I had never heard that word before until that moment. Which made me realize, what if God sent me here for this reason? To learn more about myself and to help express myself. After this week, I've realized that I shouldn't see myself as a sorry excuse for a human being, but I should see myself through God's eyes as a funny, loving, and amazing human being with loads of potential to be something. So, no matter how hard things get, or how alone you feel, just remember that there's always someone with you every step of the way.
Some people at church get back. Well, I will tell you a little precursor about my credo before I start. So last night after we left here, I went to my room and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna write this killer credo, and it's gonna be amazing, and it's gonna be awesome, and everyone's gonna love it. And I'm just gonna have the crowd woo, crying, everything. And I was like, oh, it's not hard. I might just slide in the ground, who knows? And I got to my room and wrote it and went to sleep. And in the morning, I was like, I cannot say this. Because it wasn't bad, it wasn't good. It just wasn't me. For years, since 5th grade, there was a lady in my church named Phyllis Rowe. Every time, fourth Sunday, youth Sunday, we have to lead service. There are 5 slots. 4 we have to read and pray. And every Sunday, I dread walking to church. Because I know that she'll grab me my shirt, my jacket, my pants, wherever she can touch me, and say, "Come on, Richard, you're praying." Unfortunately, I try to hide, but I'm a big target, so it's hard to hide in a small church. So I thought I'd do a little something different. I'd do a credo prayer. So everybody, please get in the position that I'm comfortable praying in. Dear Lord, thank you for the seconds, minutes, and hours with these amazing people. Thank you for granting me the experience to be a student at Upper Table. Thank you for the adults, mentors who taught us so many valuable lessons. And thank you to Leslie Griffiths and Mary Stewart Adams for showing us the way through our core courses. Thank you to St. Mary, the Islamic Center, and Synagogue for helping us learn about each other. Lord, we pray for our friends that are the lowest of the low, that they may be exalted to the highest of the high. We also pray for our friends at the Islamic Center and Synagogue, that they may be able to worship freely without hatred and bigotry. Because we know without God, we would all have been dead yesterday. Lord, we hope that we find our vocations. that make us become bright stars in a dark world. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So first thing I'm going to do is I got a little scripture reading, I guess. Psalm 142, verses 1 through halfway through 3. With my voice I cry to the Lord. With my voice I make supplication to the Lord. I pour out my complaint before him. I tell my trouble before him. When my spirit is faint, you know my way. So, I kind of had a whole plan for what I was going to say up here about how people are flawed and they're terrible and everybody's got problems and everybody sins and all that stuff. But I don't want to do any of that because that doesn't really help anything in my life. So instead I'm going to focus kind of on the second part about how despite those flaws, despite those problems and issues with mental health and getting over barriers that we all have, God still loves us. He doesn't care about what mental problems we have, what race we are, what we believe in, or who we are, even if we ourselves do not know who that is. He still loves us and sees us as people who have the capacity to love and the capacity to be loved. Because he does not call us to see what separates us or to put everyone into little boxes and say, we don't identify with these people. We don't talk or socialize to these people. He calls us to see what unites us, whether that be the belief in one God between the three religions that we've kind of went and visited and seen today, or whether that just be the fact that we are all people, and that we all have hearts and brains and minds and beautiful thoughts that everyone has and wishes to get out. Because that is what God is about. He's about loving and loving unconditionally, no matter who anyone is or what anyone is. Because everyone is open to that table here. It's partake of the body and blood of Christ.
Really short. Is this loud enough? Yeah. Okay, cool. So, a little over a year ago, I was confirmed in my church. And the last step of that process, besides, after the hour-long classes that, I just want to sleep through, and the after fun confirmation retreat,
we were told to write our creeds. So I already kind of had an idea, like going into this, have a little background with it. But the issue with my creed last year was that when we were introduced to the idea of them, we were given the Apostles' Creed as an example. If you don't know what that is, somehow, it's a very structured creed. The first part, I believe, talks about God, middle, Jesus, and last, Holy Spirit, and there's like a sentence or two at the end, kind of sum it up. And I, in my brain, the way my brain worked, I got so stuck on making my creed in that format and making, like, putting the things that I believe about each of those three things into that. And by the time my youth director was able to talk me out of that and just tell me to do whatever I wanted with my creed, I was already committed and I was going to redo it. So, I ended up with this creed that, well, it's true. It's all the things that I believe in. It's still all the things I believe in. But it wasn't what I wanted to say. And right after I finished giving it, I mean, like really right before I got up there and had to talk, I was like, can I just wing this all? Like, in my head, am I allowed to just go? But my anxiety wouldn't let me do that. So I didn't. And so I spoke a creed that, while true, wasn't my own. And we're just going to say that's a very good metaphor for my, like, faith. When you're raised in the church, it's very hard to find your faith in what you are taught. Like, being taught and actually learning and experience are two very different things. So with that all being said, my credo, I think there's a difference between creeds and credos, but I don't know, I don't care, it's fine. And so this is what, more or less, this is what I wish I wrote, plus a few more things that I learned this week. So the first thing is, everybody's faith is a little bit different. And everybody's relationship with God is a little bit different. Nobody can experience God the same way because they don't experience things the same way. So that's what I believe, that when we're talking about the differences between the three Abrahamic faiths, they're not separate. It's not a separate God. The idea of three faiths and one God is something I believe so strongly in. Because if you look back in the history, the things we share in common, Judaism, and even Islam, there's so much in common there. There's just a few, more than a few, but there's different perspectives on the same God. And I believe that that is true when we just talk about everybody in this room. I don't believe everybody in this room, it's like snowflakes, right? No two are the same. We're just going to use that analogy and move on. So that's why I believe that hating people or disagreeing with people on their faith is ridiculous. As long as you're not using God as a reason to hurt other people, we're good. And then this week has brought me very close to an idea that I've always kind of thought but never had validated, which it doesn't need validation. My faith does not need validation, but my faith needs validation. And so that was the idea that God transcends gender. That God is not necessarily the father, he's not even necessarily the mother. She's their God. And we can't put a construct that more or less we came up with to this almighty being that maybe doesn't even have a physical form, and if it is, they came to Moses in a burning bush for a reason. It wasn't just to be dramatic, there was a reason. And so that was a very powerful thing for me this week, was having other people talk about it without me prompting them, and being able to really experience that and what that means. And the thing I feel most strongly about,
at least I think I like my cat more than I feel strongly about this. But the belief I feel the most strong about is that God loves every single one of us. And that's not, there's no exceptions. There's no like little footnote at the end saying, well, he doesn't like these people because this. Because God loves every one of us. He made each and every one of us the way we are. And if he didn't love us, he wouldn't have made us the way he did. He, she, they love every single one of us and knows us all by name. And I just think that's a very powerful thing. And it's because that they love us so much that we are called to love everybody else the same. One thing I believe Leslie said this week that really meant a lot to me was you don't have to like somebody to love them. No matter what you feel about somebody or the things they believe or the way that they look or the things that they do, you still have to love them because that's what God would do. And while we're not perfect and we'll never be able to love people as much as God loves people, we should at least try. And I believe that the way we love people most is we show them that we love them. Because we can't just say it, we have to show them. We do that by serving. And so that's why I believe that we must show other people we love them by serving. That's what God would do. That's what Jesus did. And I believe that that is everybody's call. In one way or another, their call and their vocation is based off the idea of serving others.
Got to go last. Every student's dream on stage. First, before I get started, I'm extremely introverted, so if my face turns red, it's alright, I'm breathing. However, if my face turns purple, then you should probably let me know. The way I kind of interpret faith and really think about it is through others' kind of speeches, through quotes, through poems, through just about anything other than me thinking directly to God. And so I'd like to start first and foremost with my second favorite poem. It's a poem about starfishes. A man is walking on a beach, and soon he comes upon a little boy who is gently throwing things back out into the ocean. The man walks up to him and says, "What are you doing?" The boy says, "Throwing starfish. Because of high tide, they get washed out, and if someone doesn't throw them back into the ocean, they will die." The man says, "Surely you know that you can't get to every starfish. There are thousands upon this beach, let alone all the beaches in the world. How are you going to make a difference?" The boy looked at him, picked up a starfish, threw it out into the ocean, and said, "It made a difference to that one." So, my story kind of starts about a year and a half ago. I've been bullied for most of my life, even though I tend not to show it. In sports, in school, in everyday life. I've been called so many names to the point where I struggled with my own identity. I didn't know who I was. And it pushed me to the point where I decided that I no longer wanted to live. And it was just better for me to end it all and go home. Go up there. But every time I tried to end it, tried to get it over with, images would flash into my head. My mom, my brother, my dad, my friends, my family, my schoolmates, my mentors, and people that I have
time, I thought I was weak. But as little time passed on, I realized that I was strong, and I reached out. I reached out to one of my youth pastors, and he really helped me through it and helped me realize that God loves me and that I am loved, contrary to what I thought at the time. And even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Psalm 23, verse 4. And after Craig graciously provided that lovely verse to me, it just really helped me open up my eyes even more than when I realized that God was with me. And a couple months, a couple months after, which when I started to put it behind me and just kind of accept it and realize that I was going to have to move on with that fact, God kind of said, oh no, you're not done with that. You're going to use your darkness to help others. And knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. Carl Jung from Learning to Walk in the Dark. I was like, I'll give that a crack. It kind of goes with what I talk about. And a couple months after, about a year, the summer before my 8th grade year, I saw a desperate cry that I was all too familiar with. Someone desperately reaching out for someone, something to show them that God loved them. And I reached out to her. And slowly, I said, I've been through this. I told her my story. She was the second person to ever know. And then she finally opened up and said that she was feeling the exact same thing. And I said, text my youth pastor. Do it. He helped me through it. He can help you through it. He can show you that God loves you. He can show you that you are not alone in this. And so she did. And Jeff, some of you met him at the dinner. He helped her through it. And I stood with her the entire way. And I realized, as Craig once again pointed out, that God shined his light through my darkness and then put me in her darkness so I could shine his light through me to her. And so we are both now great friends, and it was good that it was summer. So sleepless nights were worth it. Sleepless nights were definitely worth it that summer. And I'd like to close with my favorite poem. When people ask me what's your favorite verse, I go, I don't have one, but I have a favorite poem. And it ties really well. It's called Footsteps in the Sand. A man is walking upon a beach. I don't know what's for poems and beaches. I mean, there's a lot of them. A man is walking upon a beach, and in the sky, he notices that his life, the best moments and the worst moments, are being played out. He looks upon the sand and realizes there are 2 sets of footprints. But then something troubled him. He noticed something troubled him. During his hardest moments, during his toughest times, there was only one set of footprints. So he asked God, he goes, why did you leave me in my toughest times? Why did you leave me for myself in these times that I needed you? And God responded, I didn't leave you, I carried you.
You say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I'm strong when I think I am weak. You say I'm held when I am falling short, when I don't belong. Oh, you say I'm yours, and I believe. Oh, I believe what you say of me. Oh, I believe.
We're glad you found courage. Thank you for sharing your gifts with us. Thank you all for sharing your voices and your gifts with us this evening. Let me give you a bit of instruction. We're going to